وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. وأشهد أنه الله الذي لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن سيدنا وسيدنا ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله لو كره المشركون. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, it is always nice to be here with you, and for Shaykh Mohammed Aslam to call me from the furthest reaches of the world, that I would hasten to come visit him, for that to be the only thing that I do, let alone to see all of these beloved people and beautiful faces before me. Alhamdulillah, that the meetings of the believers are great, and that what we attain from these meetings is great in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is an author that states is that when a Muslim brother goes to visit his other Muslim brother for the sake of Allah ta'ala, yushayyi'uhu sab'una alf malak, is that he is accompanied and in the path that he has walked with 70,000 angels. And if we make that intention when we come together in these types of majalis and these gatherings for the sake of Allah ta'ala, to visit our brothers for the sake of Allah ta'ala, everyone that makes that intention brings 70,000 angels with them. And 70,000 here for the Arabs is just for takfir. It just is in order to mention an amount that is otherwise uncountable. And so that everyone would bring 70,000 with them, 70,000 plus 70,000 plus 70,000 plus 70,000. How many angels would be in this space? They mentioned about Masjid Ba'alim and Tareem. One of the very special masajid is that sometimes that the air feels a bit thick because of kathrat al-arwah al-tahir, because of all of the blessed spirits that are packed into that particular place. And this is from the blessings of Allah Ta'ala, is that we say that if we look at when our Prophet ﷺ did the Isra and then the Mi'raj, and the Isra definitely, at least that the Prophet led all of the prophets and messengers with the arwah, at least if not their physical bodies. And Allah has called it out of kulli shay, that any prayer in Bayt al-Maqdis. And so Allah has called us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if He wants to bring a ruh of a prophet or bring al-Siddiq, one of the great saints, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bring them as He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the presence of these arwah, whether it be of the purified souls or whether it be of the angels, that makes this sense, that gives us this ruhaniyah, that allows the majalis to have what is called inshirah, where the heart opens up and it starts to feel comfortable. Such that we find an intimacy in these types of majalis, that which no matter what type of shahawat dunyawiyah, all types of worldly pleasure would be given, if they don't equal anything for one moment of this majlis, let alone sitting in it for a long period of time. And I terribly apologize for my su'al adab and being late, that we were visiting someone in the north, and it took a little bit longer for us to get down than expected, otherwise that I would never have been late to a blessed majlis like this. But alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us together. And one of the greatest things that we can do is we can be present with our hearts. And what has happened when we're present with our hearts, it is what is called istiftah al-rahmah, is that this is the means that, this is the key that opens up the descent of mercy. Because it is in these types of gatherings that we open up our hearts to be able to receive the rahmat that are descending. And one of our teachers, Habib Al-Qadir used to say, when people come together for the sake of Allah, mercy is descending, and the sakina is descending, and tranquility is descending, and all of these beautiful things are descending, but do we have hearts that are ready to receive? And this is the big question, do we have hearts that are ready to receive? Because the likeness of the heart is like earth. And that in order to plant things in the earth, there's a whole process that you have to go through, that you have to till the earth, you have to make sure that there's nothing poisonous in the heart. First it's going to kill something before you to plant it. Traditionally, when they wanted to ruin people's crops, they used to throw salt on the fields. But unfortunately, much of the meanings of modernity is that it's thrown salt in people's hearts. And hearts that would otherwise be fertile, that through things like this acid rain and all of these terrible types of philosophical currents that people are exposed to, is that the hearts are unable to be able to experience Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy that descends. Because the heart longs for this mercy. And it's when this mercy touches the heart that things then start to grow. One of the most amazing things that the Abdul Fakir, when I spent time in Mauritania, they used to experience, it was like the Discovery Channel, is that the first rain of the season, because you can see this barren Saharan desert, and that the cows and the cattle and the livestock would have very little to eat, and that they would produce a very small amount of milk. But then, all of a sudden, it would rain, and that the rains in Mauritania, knew exactly, came from only one or two directions, and it would be preceded by a brisk wind, and then the rains would come, and it would last for 15, 20, 30, maybe up to 40 minutes. But then, 2 days later, you start to see green stubble start to appear, almost magically. It almost appeared out of nowhere. 3 to 4 days later, that there's significant herbage that the cows and the cattle and the livestock can then eat, and all of a sudden that their tummies become filled with milk in a very short period of time. But you start to see these meanings of rain descending down, and then Allah Ta'ala's barakah being in the earth, and then everything that comes from it. So alhamdulillah, is that as long as you have these gatherings that we're in a good state, and if you want to know the state of an individual community, that you have to ask, what is the state of knowledge in that particular community? What is the state of majalis al-khayr? What is the state of gatherings for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake? That very not too long ago that we were with Shaykh Aslam in the blessed city of Fez, Morocco, and that we were with this very blessed soul by the name of Sidi Ismail. And one of the things that impacted me greatly is that we were sitting there at lunch, and that they do a majlis of Dalal al-Khairat 6 days a week, and Imam himself reads it 7 days of the week. And after we finished lunch, he asked us if we were going to attend that also, the Dalal al-Khairat. And we had a long morning, and we were with wives and children, and that we said, we're probably going to head back to the hotel because we're a bit tired. And he looked at us, and he said in a very caring voice, that he said, people are drowning in sin. He says, we have to do these majalis to save people that are drowning in sin. We have to nutfi al fitan. These gatherings are going to extinguish the fire of tribulations. That this was someone that was cognizant of the state of people. And that he said, this is the whole reason that we come together. Is that even though there will only be a few people coming together in one of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on this very blessed Ashiyah, on the Ashiyah of Yawm al-Jum'ah, this is the Sa'ah, this is the time that Sayyidah Fatima Zahra was of the opinion, it's one of 50 different opinions about when the Sa'at al-Ijabah is. Her opinion was that it was at this time, in late Asr, just before Salat al-Maghrib. This is a very special time, and we Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will look at another Sa'at al-Ijabah. But this is a very special time, this is the whole reason that we come together. That we hope that even though that we only be a few members of the Ummah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that there will be a blessing from this gathering that we come together that will not only benefit us and not only benefit our brothers and our sisters and our families and our children and our relatives, but also benefit the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, not only in Birmingham, but also in the United Kingdom and all throughout the world. Because this was the mafhum and the understanding of the earlier community, is that they recognize that the Prophet's dua is mustajab, and one of his names ﷺ is mujib, but it's also mujab, is that when anyone would call him, is that he would respond to him. But also anytime that he called upon his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that Allah ta'ala would answer his call. And one of the beautiful hadith in the collection of a hadith of our Prophet ﷺ is that one time that during Asr, is that the Prophet was resting upon the lap of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, and the Prophet was receiving revelation until the extent that the sun then set, and the Prophet slept briefly and woke up, and then he turned and he asked Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, did you pray Salat al-Asr? And Sayyidina Ali said, no. And the Prophet ﷺ turned his noble hands to heaven, and he said, Ya Rab, that he was in the obedience of you and in the obedience of his messenger, that returned the sun so that he could pray Salat al-Asr. And Allah brought, after the sun had set, the sun back. So it was Salat al-Asr, so Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib that prayed that Salat al-Asr then. Look at the mafhum of Sayyidina Ali, that he's with Rasulullah, and he didn't stand up to pray Salat al-Asr. Look at the mafhum of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was letting the Prophet ﷺ was on his lap, and he didn't stand up to pray Salat al-Asr. Look at his understanding. From the blessing of that, Allah brought the sun back, so he then prayed Salat al-Asr. These were the people that understood that the Prophet was not like another human being, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is that if you're praying in your prayer, and that were we to have lived in the Prophet's time, and were he to have come and sent salams to you in your prayer, it is wajib for you to return salams to Rasulullah. And this happened. The Prophet came into the presence of one of the companions and he was praying and sent salams to him. The companion quickly finished, and then the Prophet said, why didn't you return the salams to me? He was in prayer, praying to Allah Al-Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala. But despite that it is wajib to speak to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and return the salams. Anyone else that you use kafir khitab, anyone else that you speak to in the second person, unquestionably that it breaks your prayer. Let alone what the ulama say in the different schools for speaking any type of words. In some schools, even like the Maliki school, that are from the jins of dua, even other than what is water for the prayer, breaks your prayer. Let alone any type of regular words. Let alone if you speak to someone directly in your prayer in the second person. But this is Rasulullah, and that he is mujab sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his du'as are accepted sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the great blessings is that when we come together for the sake of his ummah, is that we have to recognize is that if we are not feeling the pain of the Ummah, as I was said in the hadith in Tirmidhi, that whoever is not concerned with the affair of the believers, he is not from them. And that we see that there are people that Allah Ta'ala selects, and that He grants them this special wadifa or duty, and is to be concerned with the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 25 times, 27 times in the morning and the evening. What will be the result of someone who does this? It's very simple. Allahumma ighfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat, astaghfirullah lil mu'minina wal mu'minat, astaghfirullah lil mu'minina. It will take you about a minute, maybe a minute and a half to say. The result of that is that this person will be yurzaq bihim ahlul ard wa yustajab lahu. That through this person, the people of the earth will receive their provision and their prayers will be accepted. From saying 27 times in the morning and evening, "Oh Allah, forgive the male and the female believers." And that there's another hadith that says that whoever seeks forgiveness for the male and female believers, Allah will give them a reward for every male and female believer. And then it's about your mashhad. Every time that we use the na, which is us, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan. Oh Allah, that grant us the best of this world. What are we intending? Are you intending just you and your best friend, you and your close friends, you and your own family? Where is your himmah? What are the limits to what we can attend? Well, you can attend all of the believers that precede. You can attend all of the believers that are in your time, and you can attend all of the believers that will come until Yawm al-Qiyamah, even though they haven't come yet. And that you can also attend all of the believers from the previous prophetic communities. It's all about your himmah. And if you can attend that every time you say, "Na Rabbana atina," what do you mean? Give us. Who is us? That you can attend by that all of these people if you intend it properly. And that this was the scope of the Prophet ﷺ's concern. It was for all human beings, because not only his ummah will come running to him on Yawm al-Qiyamah, even the other previous ummahs, alhamdulillah, is that we have a great Prophet, and that we have these keys that open up the doors for us for great good. There's certain things that if we learn how to do them well, is that you will find that huge doors open up from you and your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that yes, that there's many doors that a lot of people enter through. Many people enter through the door of charity. Many people enter through the door of prayer. Many people enter into a number of these famous doors, but there's other doors that if we enter into not only those doors, but also these doors, is that we'll find is that we draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really quickly. And that there are certain things that we can do, like concern for the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, like that islah, that bayn, that rectifying between people. These are one of the a'ad that pierces the veils very quickly. That when we rectify between people, and that we try to say good things to be able to reconcile between people, to be able to bring people together. This is the estate of the believer. Because the whole point of believers is that there's supposed to be an ulfa between us. There's supposed to be a deep familiarity between us all. We're supposed to love one another. And unfortunately that the scales have been turned. Is that if we're not feeling comfortable and intimate with our brothers and sisters, and that we're interacting with people coarsely and harshly, that we don't have true faith in our hearts. And that this is always amazing to me, is that you will find believers amongst themselves oftentimes speaking to each other very harshly. But then that their kafir boss calls them, all of a sudden, they speak so nicely, in such a nice Queen's English accent, and speak to them with the utmost respect. And this is a kafir speaking to them. We should respect everyone. I'm not saying that we disrespect one and don't respect. We should show respect to everyone. In fact, we should show respect to everything in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. Because if it would be revealed to us that even this carpet that we are standing on is giving tasbih, we'd have adab with the carpet that is beneath our feet. Is that the son of Sayyidina Nabi Muqaddam is at one time he sent all of his sons, he had 5 sons, to be able to go out and bring back some fruit. And one of them, his oldest son, his spiritual heir, Sayyidina Ali bin al-Faqih, is that he went out every time that he wanted to pluck fruit that he saw the plant making tasbih. And he couldn't get it beyond him to be able to pull that fruit because it was making tasbih. What kind of human being is this? This is like one of the shuyukh, as that he used to prefer one of his students over the others. And if these other students were jealous, so that's what he was getting out of the plan. He thought he was trying to wait a long time, and I told him, man, he tried to sit in the back, his name's on the poster card, he's going to have to say some words in it. Allahumma salli sallam alayh. And that these other students that used to wonder, why does the Shaykh prefer this student over all the other students? And so one day the Shaykh wanted to teach him a lesson. He said, to all of the students, he says that I want you to go outside, and I want you to buy a chicken. And I want you to go to a place where no one can see you, and I want you to slaughter that chicken. And I want you to bring meat that washed and ready to cook tomorrow to class. So all the students, they all go out, and they buy their chicken, make sure they find a place where no one sees them, and then they each slaughter their chickens. And then that particular student, that he started to think about everywhere I go, the Lord's going to see. He said no, he didn't say no in person. So the next day, that everyone came back with their chickens and the meat. And this one student came back with nothing. And then he asked the student, why did you not bring anything? He said that everywhere I go, that I realize that my Lord sees me. He says, I couldn't find a place that where I would be able to slaughter that chicken in such that he wouldn't see me. He says, this is why he's been preferred over all of you. Yeah, he's been in a state of muraqabah, that he has a special trait that other people don't have. And that you have great ulama aminin that were like this. They used to mention about the great Imam Hassan and Salih al-Different, is that he was majdud from the beginning of his affair. Is that he had very strong spiritual states from the beginning, such that he skipped from the very beginning book of Shafi'i fiqh all the way to the Minhaj al-Talibin of Imam Nawawi. Because there's something about outward knowledge, is that outward knowledge gives you strength, it gives you that outward form to be able to receive the deep spiritual states internally. And that if someone doesn't have a grounding in the Sharia of our Prophet, is that if they receive something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by way of divine gift, is that oftentimes they're not able to remain with the people at that point. They're not able to remain and to be able to guide them. And Allah ta'ala says, Allahu yajtabi ilayhi man yasha. Allah guides unto him whoever he wills subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. And that he guides that to his presence, that those that you need, is that they turn back to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that the first one, man yasha, that it could be someone as distant as possible, that is 100, that is engrossed in every ma'asi that you could possibly imagine. All of a sudden their life just turns around in one moment. And then Allah ta'ala brings them near to him. That's possible. Allah ta'ala has called that out of kulli shay. You can have someone that's in the depths of the state of kufr, and then Allah ta'ala grants that person hidayah, and instantaneously that they're granted hidayah, and that they move quickly faster than a Muslim who's been Muslim for 40 or 50 years. This is possible. And Allah ta'ala has called it a salihah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does whatever he wills. And this is why, is that we always have to have adab with Allah. And one of the greatest sins of all is the arrogance that we have in relation to other people. And that were you to see the most disgusting kafir walking down the street, filled with tattoos and doing everything wrong, is that if for one moment that you think that that person is distant from hidayah, it's extremely dangerous. Allah might strip guidance from you and give it to that person. Or He might try you severely, and He might grant this person great gifts subhanahu wa ta'ala. That He is the ilah, that He is the one that is not restricted to everything that we are restricted to subhanahu wa ta'ala. That He does whatever He wants subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are the ones who's asking, He is not asked about what He does. And the principle behind this is that He's always just subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every human being on the face of this earth will get what they deserve, but He gives His fadl to whom He pleases subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives His fadl to whom He pleases. And if two people do the exact same thing and He chooses to ta'ala to give one person 10,000 times more than the other person, that is solely His will subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does whatever He pleases. And this is why, that if we can come to tune with this reality, and I'll be brief because I understand that time is about up, that if He comes to tune with this, we come to tune this reality, is that the very thought that all of us have, that we deserve existence, and think deeply about what I'm saying, is that the very fact that we feel we deserve to exist, if we don't come to terms with that, which is at a very, very deep, fundamental level of our being, is that we will always be exposed to a whole slew of diseases of the heart. But if we can come to terms with the fact is that we don't even deserve to live, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That what did we do to deserve to live? Nothing. The fact that we feel that we deserve something or deserve to live, such that we might think that something is unfair. If someone's looking at our creation, and they had that sultan of Allah, that's not fair. Meaning, in other words, they're questioning the Allah and the Qadr. is that stems from a fundamental disease that they have. That who says that we even deserve that we don't deserve anything. Our reality is that we are zero. Anything that you put over infinity, any number you put over infinity is zero. Our reality is that we are nothing. Even in terms of this matter that looks like we are full, this is not what it seems. This matter is slowed down light. It only appears to have a form in the way that it does. And this is from a very scientific, physiological perspective. That the reality is that we are nothing. Allah kullu shay'in akhara Allah batil wa kullu na'iman la ma'alata za'ilu Allah. Indeed, is that everything other than Allah is ultimately false. It's non-existent. One of the meanings of La ilaha illallah is that nothing truly exists except our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can come to terms with that. Is that we don't deserve anything. That we have a very deep humility about it. And then that we can align ourselves to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the whole human quest is simply about that. It's about aligning ourselves to the divine will, the way that our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala has created his creation. And we can do that. We have the best example in all of creation to do that. Our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we're very blessed to have his Prophet as our Prophet. He is the Prophet of the time, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He is the last Prophet sent to humankind. That he is the seal of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that if you open your heart to loving him and serving him and being concerned for his ummah and loving his sunnah and having ta'weem of his sunnah and implementing his sharia, is that you have wonders of doors of joy and of the greatest exhilarating, surur and utmost joy, is that you will belittle all other the pleasures and that likely exist in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. Our Prophet gather us time and time, we gather again and again in this world and the next. Allah ta'ala forgive us of all of our sins. Allah barak fi Ramadan, wa ballighna Ramadan. May Allah ta'ala prepare us for Ramadan. May we long for Ramadan. May we be elected those who fast and stand in prayer in Ramadan. And the elected those who be able to receive the nafahat of Ramadan. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.